All right. We're back. Give me a second, podcast listeners. Give me a second, podcast listeners. Let me get everything straight on the socials, and then we'll get this party started. We'll get the party started, baby. Facebook, we're here. Facebook, we live. Facebook, we live. Let's get it. Let's get right into it. LinkedIn, always good. Mondays are just something about these Mondays. It's like you get an opportunity. Whatever went down last week, however it went down last week, you get an opportunity, man. Take advantage. Take advantage of the opportunity that you have right now. Right now. You see what we're talking about. You already see the headline. You clicked on it from wherever you clicked it on. And it's about growth, man. We are about growing. All right. LinkedIn, we're good. Facebook, we're already checked Facebook. Let's get on YouTube now and let's get this thing rolling. Let's get this thing absolutely rolling. YouTube, we're good. All right, let's do it. Right into this. All right, here we go. Good afternoon, good morning, good whatever time of day it is you may be consuming this. Great to have you. Great to be a part of this. Great to have you a part of this. Let me just get everything set up really quick. The banner, and we are good to go. First and foremost, let me introduce myself to anybody that may be new to my world, new to what it is I do. My name, Aswan Crookshank. I am your one and only Move Swiftly speaker, former Division I college football player, and current 5-time, soon to be 6-time published author and educator. What I do, what I created, what the whole Move Swiftly brand is all about is taking the lessons, the innovative teamwork lessons that you learn on the football field and aligning them and applying them to businesses, business organizations, business owners, so they have a staff group of employees that moves as efficiently and cohesively and as eagerly and has that passion of a championship high school or youth football team. That's what we do around here over here in the Move Swiftly world. And today we're back for another Monday. Woo! Another Monday, baby. Make your move Monday kickoff question. And man, do I love Monday. See over here, when it comes to Mondays, typically when you're talking about the 9-to-5 mindset, when you're talking about the employee mindset, when you're talking about the mindset of just having the status quo, you get to a Monday and you're like, Mondays. No. Over in the Move Swiftly world, what we do on Mondays is we have something called a kickoff question, a make and move kickoff questions to get our week started off right, to make sure we're in alignment, to make sure we're doing the things that we need to do to provide a better future for not only ourselves, our families, our communities, the people that have, built up and have done the things for us to build to get us where it is we got to get to. We want to make sure we're providing for them. So much of what we do around here is about giving back to the people that have made the sacrifices before to put us in positions to do the things that we love. That's really where a lot of this stuff started. So before we get too into it, you already see I'm a little fired up. I just finished a whole cup of coffee and I'm moving today. I'm all over the place. All right. Let me get myself back in focus. Let me first and foremost get through a few announcements. I'm going to get through a few announcements, and then we're going to get into the kickoff question. Obviously, for those of you who regularly tune in, we're going to tune into the Medium article that came out on this very topic. And by the way, if you're not subscribed to me on medium.com, be sure to do so. That's where a lot of, that's where a lot of my writing and my content, between YouTube and Medium are probably the biggest platforms in which I make sure both of them, again, everything is monetary. Everything is about what's going to be feasible to, the business and stuff like that. So YouTube and Medium are the biggest two platforms that I primarily try to make sure I'm putting a lot of my stuff out there. So anyway, before we get into all of that, let's get into the announcements. First and foremost, West Palm Beach, man, what a session we had just this past Saturday in terms of boxing. If you are interested in free boxing lessons, let me just tell you, they're getting better and better and better and better and better. Every 2 weeks, I put on free boxing lessons. And the way I see it, the way it's connecting with the community. In fact, this past Saturday, we had an individual. He brought his wife, who's also a teacher, and the way she was learning the jab. It's such an important thing to a skill to develop. And again, it's being offered to you 1,000% free every 2 weeks. If you're in the West Palm Beach area, go to freeboxing.makeyourmove.com. That's freeboxing.makeyourmove.com. Or if you're looking at this on YouTube or on Facebook or on LinkedIn, just simply hit that QR code that you see right there on the screen. Next thing, business owners, I need you guys to listen to me very closely. All right, very important stuff. You have a turnover problem. You do. I know it. We're here to help you. Again, my main offer, the main thing I offer are employee development workshops. I need you to go to freeguide.makeyourmove.com. Created a 10-step process, 10-step system in which you can use right now to put in your meeting to start utilizing these things in your meetings, so you don't have this issue of constantly replacing folks or constantly bringing folks in and they're there simply for the money. You have got to make sure you're establishing some credibility and establishing a situation where people are walking into their jobs, walking into the office, walking into the business, and they know their role and they know how they can get better that day. They know how they can get better that specific day. All right. Next thing, Patreon. Be sure to tap into the Patreon link, patreon.com/as144. There's the regular season, preseason, or postseason. We have something for everyone there. And all of that is available on makeyourmove.com. That's MakeYamove.com. If you're looking at this on the screen, you'll see you can shop, you can join the Patreon, you can book me to speak, you can learn more about As One, or you can simply listen to one of those fantastic episodes from the Move Swiftly podcast, the #1 podcast on innovative teamwork. All right, so now that we got through those announcements, and they're very important. This is why I make sure I repeat those announcements on a daily basis. All right. On a daily basis, to remind you all, this is a business we're running. Everything is monetary, and we got to make sure to keep these videos coming, to keep this advice coming, to keep the things going, that, you guys hit likes, you guys are sharing, you guys are doing the things that are going to make it so we're able to continue to do this really, really important work. And I will tell you that, since I've started, and the things that have been changing in my personal life, professional life, so much growth is happening before your very eyes, and so much growth is happening for me as I'm moving forward into, next phases of life, and learning from this and learning from that. I got to tell you, it has been quite the journey, and it's quite the journey when you're doing it publicly, when you have committed to making sure that, I leave time for my live streams. I'm putting money aside to make sure I'm doing this and doing that, and managing a lot of different things. It's just a beautiful, I like to call it a beautiful mess. It was, what's her name? Can't believe that now I'm blanking on the name right now. The gift of him. What was her name? Oh my God, I can't believe I'm blanking on her name. Hold on one second. Let me look it up. Hold on one second. I cannot believe I'm banking on her name. Brene Brown. Yeah, that's it. Brene Brown. It was Brene Brown. Yeah. Brene Brown. Yes. Brene Brown. Brene Brown. It was her name. She wrote a book, and I read this book. Brene Brown. She wrote a book titled The Gift of Imperfection. Right here. This is it. The Gifts of Imperfection. And this book was actually recommended to me from a client. Shout out to her fighter. This is back when I was a trainer at. They get a new one? Huh. Looks like they got the 10th. Oh man, they got a 10th anniversary edition. See, this is the power of books. So this book, if you go back and listen to some of my earlier podcast episodes, this book was recommended by she was a former client when I was a trainer at 9 Round. And this was when I was just developing as a public speaker, and I would be giving these speeches to the 9 Round members. So I would go to Toastmasters, I practice my speech, and so I get a speech, and then I practice my speech on these 9 Round members. And this was right before the first book, Swiftly, right before it came out. I'm practicing my speech, I'm writing the book, I'm making that transition from fitness guy to now I'm going full throttle in the thought leadership world and figuring out how I can do this and do that. So in this gym, you get a lot of mothers, you get a lot of single mothers and people going through this, going through that, just going through really, difficult times, because that's just what you're going to get at a boxing gym. They're coming in there because they want to, let some steam out and really get it all out. Right. So, one of the members that I got really close with is her fighter name was Tiger. And she recommended this book, The Gift of Imperfection, because we were talking about Brene Brown and self-development. I remember there was another member there who, once you hear that name, Brene Brown, they really kind of perked up and stuff like that. So anyway, what happened is I asked her what book should I read from her, because she has tons of them. So I read The Gift of Imperfections, and one of the first early Move Swiftly podcast episodes was her. She was on the show and we were kind of breaking down that book and all that kind of stuff. So it's pretty cool to think about that. I didn't plan on even telling that story, but when it comes to the question that you see right there on the screen, I tell that story to give you some context for what we're actually going to be discussing today. All right. So today it's all about what environment allows you to grow the most. All right. And it's very important that you hear me closely. I repeated it today in today's Move Swiftly Thought. And you're going to hear me kind of allude to this when I let the article play on Medium. And I'm going to say it again right here as bluntly and plainly as I can say it. All right. What environment allows for the most growth? Growth. Key word in this situation is growth. When you are growing, you are uncomfortable. I'm not asking, I'm not interested, and I'm not telling you, I am not even gonna bring that to your attention. When you're talking about growth, it's about being uncomfortable. It's about actually getting in situations where you're uncomfortable and you have to grow your way through it, or you're just not going to get it done, or you're just going to you're simply just not going to have what it takes to get whatever job it is you're pursuing, or whatever the result is that you were hoping to get. If you're not willing to grow through situations, you have got to put yourself in an environment that allows for the most growth. And ask yourself this question in a really, really, really be really hard on yourself and really critical about yourself in regards to what environment is going to allow for the most growth. All right. When you're growing, you're uncomfortable. When you're getting better, when you're moving, you're going to get uncomfortable because you're growing. So the environment has to be conducive to that. The environment cannot be you walking into a situation in which you're just comfortable. You walk into a situation where you're just familiar with this one and familiar with that one, and you're just familiar with how people are in that certain culture and all that kind of stuff. No, that's not the way you grow. That's not a situation which is going to be conducive to results and positive results and things like that. The environment we're talking about today is the environment that makes it so you have to grow. You have to grow. It's either you grow or you die. Period, point blank. And it's either you grow or you're just not going to have what it takes. That is the environment I'm talking about. That's what we're going to discuss today. That's how we're going to grind it out. So actually, you know what? Let me let the article play, and then I will interject throughout the article when it comes to certain situations, why for the answer for me. And for those of you who don't know how this works, is I'll pose the question, I'll answer it from me, I'll answer it from my perspective, and then I'm going to give you why I decide I have the answer that I have, and in hopes that you sort of look at me and look at my situation and say, that's a model, that's someone that is someone that I can look at as a model towards how I start to create that kind of culture in my business and create that kind of mindset in my life. That's how this Make It Move Monday Kickoff Question stuff works. All right. So before we get into it, without further ado, let me let the article play, and then we'll get going on it. We'll get going in regards to how we move forward. So instead of letting, a matter of fact, yeah, you're right. I remember I said this last week. So instead of letting the article play, I'm going to read the article out loud because I don't like the voice that Medium, no offense to Medium, I just don't like the voice that it plays. And it helps me when it comes to, again, public speaking and, doing the workshops with my clients. So I just figured, let me just read the article on my own. So as one Crookshank, what environment allows for the most growth? Make It Move Monday Kickoff Question, reflection, my visit to the Botanical Garden. All right, so here it is. What environment allows you to grow the most? Not the environment that makes you feel comfortable, not the one where everything is familiar and cozy. I'm talking about the one that stretches you, challenges you, forces you to expand in ways you didn't know were possible. This week's Make You Move kickoff question hit me unexpected. Excuse me, guys. Let me get some. This week's Make You Move Monday kickoff question hit me unexpectedly during a field trip with my first and second graders from the Center for Creative Education. That's where I currently teach at a school named the Center for Creative Education. As one of my many roles includes driving the bus, I accompanied them to the Mounts Botanical Gardens that you can visit in West Palm Beach, a stunning living classroom that teaches us how nature adapts, thrives, and flourishes under the right conditions. You know what? Let me just give the Botanical Gardens a little bit of a plug here. So this is it. Mounts, if you're looking at this visually, if you're listening to this on the Move Swiftly podcast, I am showing a link in some of the pictures from the Mounts Botanical Gardens. As you see here, the mission is to inspire and educate through nature and a history of spanning more than 40 years. Mounts Botanical Gardens at Palm Beach Coast, largest located in Palm Beach International Airport. And as you can see, this is where we visited last week, and we saw the gardens and all that kind of stuff. So and I'm back to the article now, by the way, guys. So before our walk through the garden, I had the chance to sit in on a brief lesson about the unique environmental factors that make Florida's plant life so diverse: the sunshine, the humidity, and the constant rainfall. All of it plays a role in what grows here, and more importantly, what can't grow anywhere else. That concept hit me hard. Certain things only grow in Florida. Certain things only grow in you, but only when you're in the right environment. Okay, see, now we're doing it. Now something happened. You're starting to see where we're going with this, people. Okay? Growth isn't comfortable. It's necessary. The word environment means the surroundings or conditions in which a person, animal, or plant lives or operates. The emphasis is on conditions, not comfort. As a speaker, coach, and content creator, I ask this question to business owners and leaders I serve every day, not to make them feel good, but to make them reflect. Because here's the truth: growth is rarely found in the environments where we feel the most safe. Let me highlight that one for you all. Growth is rarely found in environments where we feel the most safe. Let me pause right there. I'll pause it right there because I want you guys to think about where you feel the most safe. Where's why don't you put it in your head? Put it in your mindset right now. If you have to close your eyes, but just really reflect for a second and think to yourself, what is the environment in which I feel the most safe? What is the environment in which I was naturally pushed into, where it was kind of like a natural pull, like a natural current in which I feel the most safe? Me speaking for myself specifically, I grew up in a 2-parent household, and so right there in Silver Spring, Maryland, right there on Brock Drive, a home that my parents still currently own and they live in. And again, no matter what, that house is always going to be available. It's always going to be there. I felt the most safe there because that's where I grew up. That is home. Every time I go home, I, for the most part, I do a re-emphasis. I actually have a podcast episode titled Home versus House, understanding that home is more of a relational thing. A house is more of a business transaction. What's going to make sense from a business standpoint, but a home is relational and, the community and all that. Again, I grew up in a home. I didn't grow up in a house. I grew up in a home. So that's where I feel, again, the most safe and the most comfortable and all that. But the growth wasn't happening there. Folks. The growth was not happening in that environment for Aswan Crookshank because it was so familiar. It was so, there's decorations, there's, my college degree is in a frame, all my baby pictures are there, the stuff that I played football with, and all the practice jerseys and all the stuff. Again, sounds good and it's like, oh man, that's so comfortable. But when it comes to people, we are naturally prone to grow. If you're going to grow, you have to get away. You have to figure out ways to get away from those safe environments. You have to figure out ways to maneuver and again, get to a situation where you're not simply just waking up and being exactly and not breaking the patterns that your parents left for you, breaking the patterns that was kind of already predetermined for you. You have to break those patterns by getting uncomfortable and doing some outlandish, crazy shit. That's what you have to do if you're really interested in growing. Now, if you're interested in just staying the same, hey, more power to you and do your thing. But if you're really interested in growing, those are the kinds of things that you're going to do. All right. So again, growth. I'm back to the article now, guys. Growth is rarely found in the environment where we feel the most safe. Growth happens in tension, in discomfort, in pain. And for me, the growth happens when I'm speaking to a predominantly white audience. All right, I'm going to pause there because now I'm answering the question. And again, I'll repeat, for those of you who do not know how this works, is I personally answer the question. The environment for me that allows for the most growth is when I'm speaking to a predominantly white audience. What I didn't put in the article was a predominantly incredibly wealthy. I could have easily added very, very wealthy white audience. That's where the most growth occurs for me. And let me tell you, let me just go back to just so you guys have a visual here for you guys who are listening to this on the Move Swiftly podcast. I'm making sure there's a picture that you guys see a picture of there's a snapshot. I'm putting on the screen a picture. It's kind of a snapshot of what my high school life was like. Nice. It's kind of funny looking at it now. It's 36. It's crazy to think about. How I never really actually stopped being this kid. I really never stopped being this kid. But anyway, if you look at the picture is of it was myself, a graduated class of 07 of Good Counsel High School, Good Counsel right now it's in Albany, Maryland, but I graduated from the Wheaton one. And I'm looking at a picture of the senior class, all of the football players from the senior class. All right. I'm looking at it's myself, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. Actually, no, one because including myself. So it's 9. All right. So 9 black guys, 9 black guys. 9 black guys. There's 2 Asian dudes. And everybody else is white. Everybody else is white. All right. And I'm not making this a race conversation. That's not where I'm going with it. But what I am saying is I remember being of that mind. I remember being a freshman walking into this situation, having gone to a public school my entire life and being around predominantly Black and Latino students and having those kinds of classmates and walking in this freshman year and really never, ever, ever even thinking about how, walking into Good Counsel my freshman year, being absolutely culture shocked and being absolutely intimidated and not knowing what I actually just stepped into. And to think that this picture that you see here now, this was 4 years later from that moment where I'm the senior captain and the linebacker that actually was voted as a leader amongst these very guys, knowing that, hey, they have generations upon generations that come through the school. They got, daddies that have the cash to put them through to give them whatever it is they need. And to get to know these guys, to get to know this senior class and to know that they're just like everybody else just because of what their daddies and what their parents did. None of that matters. It was just a matter of us going out, competing as a team. Again, I'm looking at it and I got to tell you how much I just love these guys. I love them and I love them because, the race and where you're from and all, none of that shit mattered, man. None of it mattered. It was all love at the end of the day. No matter how much we bickered, how much we fight, this was 4 years. When you look at this picture, this was 4 years of growth. And I had class with a lot of these guys and many times I was the only Black kid in the class. And there were times where, again, I could have made the excuse of, oh, I'm being picked on for this and being picked on for that. When you got on the football field, everything just evened out, and it gave me the confidence. So that's why specifically that's why initially I would say, for me, when the growth happens when I'm speaking to a predominantly white audience, again, you can add wealthy to that statement, is because that's what made As One Crookshank As One Crookshank. That what gave me the confidence to say, I can be a public speaker. I can get into that work. There's nothing anybody can do to stop me after living through what I lived through in those 4 years of high school. Because to make a name for myself in that situation, when there was every excuse, every reason to just quit, every reason to just absolutely say, look, my sister went to the public, just so we're clear here, understand, my sister went to the local public school that I was supposed to go to, and she would take me to high school games. We'd go and watch their high school pride. Like, she, in her head, it was like, I want my little brother going to this specific high school and building kind of building that Crookshank name at this specific high school. And the whole good counsel thing came as it threw a monkey wrench in a lot of the plans that my family actually had for me and all that. So it was a growth. It was a situation in which I had to grow without really realizing that the significance in what I was doing. So when it comes to me now, again, when I'm speaking to that audience and being able to tell those stories and going through that again, that's where I feel the most like, all right, we're making it. In fact, the last second to last work. So I used to do a lot of workshops for a company named Positive Coaching Alliance. And the second to last workshops, I don't do as many now because I developed my own. Let me just show you guys here real quick. Again, for those of you. All right, so the second to last workshop that I did for Positive Coaching Alliance was with this program right here. Again, for those of you who are listening to this on the Move Swiftly podcast, I am showing the St. Thomas Aquinas athletics program, which is arguably the best. If you talk to anybody from St. Thomas Aquinas, they're going to tell you they are the best high school athletics program in the country. That's what they're going to say. Obviously, very debatable, but they actually do have a very strong argument towards that, because I'm showing the kind of alumni, the kind of standard that they have. They call it the standard, right? And I did a workshop with all of their coaches. So this program that is incredibly established, incredibly known, I did a workshop in an auditorium with all of the coaches, 70 plus coaches. I'm there. And this was when I was, 33, I think I was, 32 or 33. I'm there not having as much coaching experience with them. I mean, as the people that I was doing it for. And I did an incredible workshop. I got people moving. I got to build a relationship with the athletic director, who actually, when I was working with the Dolphins, he was there, and then he became the athletic director at St. Thomas Aquinas. His name is Twan Russell, a lot of people call him Twan, but Twan Russell, very known in the community out here. But anyway, I did a workshop there, and I was telling a lot of stories about, my high school experience and this and that. And that was where I got the most growth. I remember getting a text from him after I was through with the workshop, and he was saying how there was some mixed feelings about you bringing up race and doing this and that and all this kind of stuff, to where, again, I loved it, because as a speaker, as a public speaker, as a person that's going to host these workshops, and that's going to be the main thing, that's going to be my main thing, you got to make some people uncomfortable. It's part of the deal, man. It's part of what's going on. It's part of exactly how we work. So, growth, and again, I'm back to the article now, and this is right after I've answered the question initially. So here it is. When I'm speaking to a predominantly white audience. Now, I don't say that to stir controversy. I say that because it's real. I attended a predominantly white high school. During my sophomore year, I was assaulted by two white staff members who worked as athletic trainers. That the emotional and psychological aftermath was brutal. But I stayed, I endured. And by my senior year, I was captain of the football team, first team all WCAC as a linebacker. I share that not for sympathy, but for clarity. That experience formed the roots of who I am. I revisit those lessons daily, not as wounds, but as reminders of the environment that forced me to grow. Let me just pause there for a little bit, because that was the that was the defining moment, I would say, of my teen years. That was the defining moment. I had just, it was my sophomore year, and I just finished a season in which I finally, again, my freshman year, absolutely rough. First time around so many white folks. My grades sucked. I didn't play on the freshman team. I was still playing for the White Oak Warriors at the time. I was really, really starting to doubt the decision I made to go to Good Counsel. It was not an easy time by any means. All right. So we're coming now to my sophomore year, and I finally get eligible to play. I go and play. I go off of the JV team as a sophomore. I make an incredible impression. I get voted as captain. We go undefeated, and I finally find my place in this absolute just chaotic world that I've had to be endured to throughout my freshman year, right? And then right after the football season, I had the idea of joining the wrestling team, which again was a great idea. But the problem with joining the wrestling team is by the time I saw the football guys working out, and again, this is a mistake that I wouldn't recommend anybody else do, or this is something that today I wouldn't recommend a kid doing this. But when I saw the actual football players working out, I decided I was going to leave the wrestling team and then go work out with the football team. This is a mistake. Again, this is a mistake that I made that I wouldn't condone. I wouldn't tell anybody to do. But I did it. I was doing wrestling to get better for football. All right. And the strength coach for the football team, strength coach in general, was also the head wrestling coach. And him and the athletic trainers were like this, they were really tight. The specific athletic trainer that assaulted me, they were really, really tight, really, really close. And they didn't like it. At the end of the day, they didn't like it. They took it personal. When I left the wrestling team, they took, the two of them took it really, really personal that I would leave that team and then go do the football stuff. So what happened was, and it was clear that the both of them took it really, really personal, to where I look back on it now and I'm somewhat flattered in a way that, that they took it so personal that it was like, yo, I'm a fucking 14-year-old kid. Why are you guys taking it so personal that I would leave the wrestling team to go, do the workouts in football? Like, it was flattering. But as I look at me and everything I bring to the table, and maybe what they saw at that age, and me being a captain, me being the one that was going to have influence over guys, and or whatever it was, I don't know what the reason was, but they did take it a little too personal, obviously too personal, right? So what happened was, it was a day my sophomore year. This is Silver Spring, Maryland, in the dead of winter. It's cold. All right. I was waiting for my dad to pick me up from school. And what happened was, this specific athletic trainer, I won't put her name. Her name was Leah, whatever. But the specific athletic trainer that I'm referring to in the article, she tells me to go wait outside. I say, I'm not waiting outside. I say it obviously in a very agitated tone, because that's the energy she was on, right? The energy she was on was like, yo, wait outside. It wasn't like, hey, yo, is your dad going to be close? Is there a specific time frame? I understand that, it's cold because we can't have people out here. But I was quietly staying there by myself. There was no reason for her to come at me on some go wait outside. And obviously the tone is very, she was kind of testy in terms of her tone. So when I said something back to her, I immediately feel her. Like, she stopped talking, and I immediately feel her grab my jacket so hard that I could still hear it in my head. The strings being pulled off the sleeve, the jacket that my sister just spent a couple $100 paying for, a North Face jacket that my sister just spent a couple $100 paying for. So I hear some of the string kind of rip off with how hard she pulled the sleeve on the jacket. And she's pulling me. She's like, this is an adult pulling a kid. She's pulling me up the stairs. And then her colleague, who's a male, is coming in the stairwell. It's just us three in a stairwell. And in my mind, I'm thinking he's going to calm her down, stop her and say, yo, look, this is going too far. You can't be doing this to a damn kid. I don't care how much you don't like him, but he helps her. So they're both dragging me up the steps, slam my face against the wall so hard that I can still feel it. I can still feel the cold paint right here on my left cheek, and they're screaming into my ear, is this how you wanted? I was wanted. And then they drag me and throw me into the principal's office. That happened. That actually happened. This was a real story. So for years, I shut that story down. I didn't want to tell it. It was one of those things that was very hard for me to discuss in a public setting. It wasn't until I actually paid for coaching. I actually, got with a good friend, a good business mentor of mine. Now his name is Dre Baldwin. It was him, Charlene, who was helping him out when it comes to the business and helping people grow. And when I told that story to him, he goes, are you kidding? Like, this is the story that you need to be telling as often as you possibly can, right? So what happened was my rebuttal to him was, man, what if I tell that story and I make white people uncomfortable or make, folks uncomfortable when they're listening to me? And his response was like, look, any white person that would be uncomfortable about you telling a story about something that actually happened between you and a white person, they're not in your ideal audience. So you want to piss them off. You want to intentionally piss off those folks that would do that to a young person, or that would condone that, is so afraid of me telling that story. Okay. So when he made those statements to me, I realized, okay, that's your ideal audience. Not when it comes to who your ideal audience is, it's the folks who are not like the folks that I just mentioned, are not like the white people that I just mentioned, who would take advantage of a kid in a situation like that. That's not who that's not what I'm talking about. When I say predominantly white folks, I'm talking about the wealthy. Like, so to give you a situation, to give you an understanding of how that situation actually got resolved, there was my football coach, Coach Bob Malloy, and then the principal, Jack Graham, who actually I saw him. It's so crazy now. I'm thinking, I saw him at the game. I think he's retired out here in Tampa, and he was at the game, that Good Counsel out of game out here in Miami this past fall. And I saw Jack Graham there. He was in the stands, and he's talking to me about alumni stuff and all that. But anyway, when that situation was going on, it was Coach Bob Malloy and Jack Graham that told my mother, because again, my parents they were absolutely livid. They were ready to take me out to school. To this day, my father could talk about it. I was ready to take him out to school. But what happened was they were able to get with Coach Malloy, get with Jack Graham, and we had a conversation about it, and they were talked to. Again, they spoke to the people that did it and yada yada yada. But the bottom line is, I realized all white people are not like that. All white, when I say predominantly white audience, all white people are not like what you saw with people. Yes, there's some of the few that will see that and, have their prejudgments and be generalizing and all that. But all white people aren't like that. And when you're talking about that environment for growth, when you see a picture like this, when you see these guys that I, would go to war with and I'd compete with and play football with and all that, they don't deserve to get blamed for what some other asshole would do. And that's what fuels me. That's what forced me to grow. That's what made me start to say, hey, all right, look, Osborne, you have an opportunity. You don't look at it and say, hey, let's go run to Springbrook, which was the public school that I was supposed to go to. Let's go run and do something. Let's go run from this situation. No, let's stick it out, endure the situation, and keep on just doing you, man. Keep doing your thing. Keep grinding. I deal with the same thing every day. When I teach, again, I'm one of the few male teachers that is in the industry I'm in. And as same thing, there's no different. There's black folks that do bullshit when it comes to me and put roadblocks and things like that. There's all sorts of people that are constantly putting roadblocks. It's like, hey, just keep doing you. Just keep doing you. Keep doing you. That's what I mean. That's what I'm talking about. And as we, sympathy. So I'm back to the article now, guys. So I share that not for sympathy, but for clarity. That experience formed the root to who I am. I revisit those lessons there. Right. I tell the full story. And by the way, so I have the full story here in this book, Make Your Move, Unique Guide into Boxing. a unique look into boxing, dance, and entrepreneurship. That story is told here. So make sure you guys get a copy of it on makeyourmove.com, MAKEYAMOVE.com. So it's here, your turn. So as I close you guys out, I'm going to read this last part as I close you guys out now. Your turn. So again, I asked, what environment allows you to grow the most? No, not the one that flatters your ego. This is important stuff now, guys, because we are naturally pushed. We are naturally pushed in a situation, to be in a situation in which we are in a place where we're going after something, we're in environments, we spend too much time in environments that flatter our ego and make us feel more important than we actually are. Not the one that flatters your ego, not the one that agrees with everything you say. Another one that I see a lot of when, especially when you're talking about kids, you're talking to someone, listening to someone that watches kids from, again, VPK, pre-K, kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade, all the way through. And as they grow, you start seeing them forming their own cliques. And, this one likes this one likes that one, whatever it is, they start to form these little cliques that they don't realize it's very, 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 very unhealthy towards the growth, because they're building habits within themselves that's going to make it so as they get older, they're going to look for comfortable situations and be rewarded or what they feel like is rewarded, or be told that they're doing the right thing because they're looking for a situation with the most comfort. All right. The one that tests you, let me reread it just so you guys have some clarity here. As if you're listening to this on the Move Swiftly podcast, I'm finishing out the article that's available on medium.com that is titled, What Environment Allows for the Most Growth? Make sure you follow me on Medium. It's Move Swiftly 44. The articles come out daily. By the way, also too, make sure you are hitting a like for the algorithms. Make sure you're sharing, make sure you're subscribing, make sure you're doing all of that. All right. We are moving swiftly. We're going to a completely different trajectory. We are going to actually go into big places here. So let me finish out this article. What environment allows you to grow the most? Not the one that flatters your ego, not the one that agrees with everything you say, the one that tests you, refines you, forces you to move differently. Drop a comment or below, or better yet, bring this question. And this is big. This is the takeaway now. Bring this question into your next team meeting, journaling session, or leadership retreat. The answers might surprise you, as I'm sure they may have surprised you when you heard my story. The answers might surprise you because, like the gardens of Florida, your growth depends on where you're planted. Woo! Come on, baby. Your growth depends on where you're planted. But more importantly, it depends on whether you're willing to endure the storms that come with blooming. The next reflection part, So are you willing to endure the storms that come with blooming? All right, because that's what happened. Your growth depends on where you're planted. Where, capital WHERE. Where you're planted. This was the reason for me personally 7 years ago when I decided, look, I'm just going to drive out to Florida. I knew this is exactly where I wanted to be. This was where I wanted to be planted. I wanted to be planted in a place where they took their football seriously, they took their fitness seriously, and there was just a pick of all the Caribbean and Hispanic women, South American women that just being all that. I wanted to just grow in that. Just drop me off in Florida. We're gonna figure out the rest of the shit along the way. And again, I'm moving pretty in the right direction when it comes to all that. Yeah. I like that. So, where it depends on. It depends on whether you are willing to endure the storms. All right. So as fun as it might be, again, being in the right environment, it's also about, are you willing to endure the growth? Because as you get closer and as I'm learning, as you move forward towards your dreams or your goals, there are going to be storms. There are going to be things that needs to be figured out. There are going to be processes and things in place that make it so you have to grow, that make it so you have got to grow. And again, the question has to now become, hey, are you willing to endure those storms? Are you willing to work through situations, think through situations, and get yourself better? All right. So all that being said, and close you guys out. Just to recap, Make Your Move Monday Kickoff Question. What environment allows you to grow the most? What allows the most growth? Remember, I'm not asking you what makes you the most comfortable. I'm asking you what allows you to grow the most. For me personally, given the things that I've personally lived through, it's predominantly a white, wealthy audience that are very much more interested in actually being good and actually learning something, and not allowing race to play a factor in terms of, or when I say, instead of using the word race, not allowing a personal shit that they have with an individual get in the way of what's going to be best for their business. That is that group. Not allowing, personal affiliations and, whether you like what someone did beforehand and your personal bullshit or your personal vendettas against an individual is not going to make it so you make decisions that could have cost you your career. Because again, if I was a different student, if I was a student that had family members and generations coming through good counsel, and that situation happens with them, those teachers easily would have been fired. Those people that assaulted me would have easily been fired. Easily. Like, no, every time I tell the story to a certain parent, a certain group of parents, they say no. There was no scenario in which those two would not have been fired. But because, again, coming from the Caribbean background, coming from a place that, a lot of people didn't really know how to pronounce my name, I had to make a name for myself. Those teachers kind of got a slap on the wrist, and as one's here to tell the story, to retell the story, and make it so absolutely nobody is ever going to have to live through something like that because of the sacrifices that one's making every single day. I'm never going to let it die. Never going to happen. All right. So all that being said, again, main website to check out to dive deeper into everything I'm doing. If you're interested in a employee development workshop, if you're interested in just listening to, if you're interested in being on the show, everything that I'm all about, it's right there in one-stop shop, makeyourmove.com. That's makeyaMove.com. You guys continue to move swiftly. We will talk more soon.